Okay, welcome everyone. Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Come on in. As people are coming in, if you want to pop your name and your current affiliation into the chat, then we can get an idea of who's here. That would be really helpful. And we'll give people a minute to come in the room, and then we have a poll to do also.
And I'll just put that up now, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Here we go. So we're getting some, we have 13 out of 13 folks answered our poll. And actually, it looks like we have quite a few people headed for public libraries, and then academic, then school, and then other. So if you want to pop your names and affiliations in the chat, if you already have a position, if you're a student, maybe what university you're studying at, and then we'll get started. All right. Are we ready? Let's see. Okay. Can everyone hear me? We're all in, right? Okay.
We can hear you. Thank you,
All
Jessica.
right. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so my name is Jessica DiCicco. I am a current Master of Information student with a school librarianship concentration at Rutgers University. And I also happen to be the student affiliate for NJASL, the New Jersey Association of School Librarians. And I'm delighted to be here tonight with a wonderful panel of folks from local professional organizations to help us all get a better sense of what different organizations do, what they can do for us as students, and sort of prepare us for understanding the landscape of professional organizations in New Jersey going forward into our careers. So again, welcome to Row in the Garden State. And just a little housekeeping. I'll try to keep an eye in the chat for questions as we go along, but we do plan to have some time at the end for questions. So we'll come back around to that if we miss you. And we are recording the session. There were some folks that couldn't make it that wanted to catch up with it later. So we have that running for them too. Okay, so without further ado, let's have our panelists all introduce yourself briefly and tell us a bit about the organization you're representing today. And we can start with Alan McGinley from NJLA.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Alan McGinley. I'm the library director at Westfield Memorial Library in Union County. Oh, things are popping up on my screen. Sorry. And I'm representing NJLA tonight. I'm the second vice president of NJLA's executive board, and I'm also the co-chair of NJLA's member services committee. NJLA is a membership-based organization, so most of its funding comes from the dues paid by members, although that's changing a little bit because NJLA has just launched a new institutional membership. It's called Enhanced Institutional Membership. So libraries can join as enhanced institutional members, and that actually includes membership for all of the employees. So it's a great either thing to maybe push for in the libraries that you're in, or to even ask about when you're talking about benefits with a library that you're interviewing with. I think one of the most important things that NJLA does is advocacy. I have seen NJLA members on in Trenton at rallies, on the steps of libraries at rallies. NJLA helps to coordinate legislative meetings with legislators and library workers, so that library workers can advocate for increased funding and different things that those libraries need. NJLA also does a lot of professional development. The annual conference is probably one of the biggest examples of that, and it's just a great opportunity to learn things, to connect with people, and just connection. You'll probably hear that a lot tonight, but NJASL offers this network of, support, of relationships, of, people that you can sort of go to when you have questions. And that's, really been one of the biggest values for me personally.
Thank you. Nancy Meglio from NJASL, would you like to go next?
Yes, thank you. I am Nancy Meglio, and I'm representing New Jersey Association of School Librarians, NJASL. I am the chair of the membership committee. And I have to tell you that NJASL is an absolutely wonderful organization. You join personally, not by institution or library. NJASL has been so helpful to me over the years in terms of I doing my job. I am currently a middle school librarian in Plainfield, students 6 through 8. And I have learned so much through NJASL, whether when I attend conferences, whether it's networking with people, how to do a book order, what's out there in terms of what's to buy, book reviews, collaboration with teachers, what's happening in the legislative world out there. This organization does so much, and I am just so grateful to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we'll go to Darby Malvey from LibraryLinkNJ.
Everybody, my name is Darby Malvey. I work for LibraryLinkNJ. First, I just want to say I'm actually a member of both NJLA and NJASL for a long time. I started my career as a public youth services librarian, and then I was a middle school, high school librarian for a number of years. Now I work full-time for LibraryLink, but I'm a member of both of these organizations that Alan and Nancy just told you about, and I can't overstate enough how helpful they've been to me in my career. LibraryLink is a little bit different in that LibraryLinkNJ is the New Jersey Library Cooperative. We are funded by the state library. We are an independent nonprofit. And what that means is that we're not a membership organization in the traditional sense. So you don't pay dues to join LibraryLinkNJ. Everyone who works in a New Jersey library is essentially automatically sort of eligible to participate with us. And that covers every type of library. So public, certainly, school, academic, special libraries, law libraries, medical, like you name it. Everyone's welcome, and everyone who works in the library is able to participate. So that could be your library assistants, your tech staff, your maintenance staff, whoever it is. Essentially what LibraryLinkNJ does is we offer a lot of continuing education and professional development. We offer some funding opportunities that, things like mini grants and on-demand staff training subsidies. And we also offer the Mentor NJ program, which is an opportunity for library staff from all over the state to kind of get together and discuss common topics and do sort of a very informal mentoring initiative. And we also have a mentoring directory that we're going to be relaunching very soon with all new mentors in it. And that's a great opportunity for new librarians or even, non-librarians to kind of, as Alan said, to connect with other folks from around the state. So I would say what makes LibraryLink different from the other two groups is that you don't have to pay any dues to join, as long as you have an email address from a library or from your school program. So those of you who are enrolled in an MLIS program can use your school email address to get an account, and then you're able to just participate in whatever you choose to participate in. So that's what makes it a little bit different. But what's nice about it is since you don't have to pay the dues to join our organization, you can spend those dues on NJLA and NJASL, and you get like double or triple the benefits. So that's a little bit about LibraryLink.
And I might add, NJASL dues are not very expensive.
True. Thank you.
Thank you.
If any of you, if you want to speak a little bit to how did you get involved in these professional organizations? I know as students, sometimes we can feel like there's a lot going on and it feels pretty far away from us, but how did you first make those connections and get involved?
So for me, before I even got to that point, I want to say that I started my career in New York Public. So I was in New York City. And one of the first things that I felt was that like my job was so hard that I needed other people to talk to learn from, to connect with, and just like emotional support. And so when I came to New Jersey, I immediately was looking at the State Library Association and as far as ways to kind of network. And I went to like a section meeting, and I joined a committee, and I went to a few meetings, and I'll be honest, like it didn't really click for me right away. I wasn't, like, I'm the kind of person where it's like I want like tangible work to do, projects to do, something that I can show, put on my resume, show people this is what I did. And so I didn't find that right away, and someone pointed me towards the conference committee, and that's what I really liked about the conference committee. Like it was clear to me what the purpose of that committee was, what the work was, and it just gave me a fantastic experience. But I had to sort of try a few different things. I had to talk to other people who were involved, to find out what committees they were on, and mentors. The other thing I would say is that there's a lot of sections that are specific to your sort of role in a public library. So if you're a children's librarian, there's a children's section, there's a teen section, an adult section, and lots of different aspects. So just sort of look around and keep trying, because it might not, the first thing you try might not be sort of the perfect fit for what you're looking for.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think there is a lot of experimentation and wandering around that happens when you're new at something, right?
Yeah, I think it can be tough, because a lot of times when you're new to the profession, you can feel like you're hesitant to go to some of these things because you don't know anybody and everybody seems to know each other, or everyone has so much more knowledge than you. There's this like imposter syndrome that goes on. But both my experience with NJLA and NJASL has been that people are like so warm and welcoming, and that it's very easy to get involved, right? Because they're volunteer-based organizations and they need people to get involved. So if you want to be involved, don't worry, like we're going to put you to work. At LibraryLink, like I said, it's a little bit different because we're not sort of a volunteer-based organization. We are a very small staff, but we are a staffed nonprofit. And so obviously I work there. I'm not a volunteer. But when I was sort of very early in my career, I applied to a grant. At the time, LibraryLink was doing makerspace grants. Makerspaces were like relatively new, and they were giving out some funding for makerspaces. So I applied for the grant and was able to get the grant. And that was sort of my intro into some of the stuff that LibraryLinkNJ offers. And then later I was able to use some of their on-demand subsidy money when I was a school librarian to kind of gather some of the folks in my area together, some of the school librarians in my area, to do some training that we kind of weren't getting through our schools, right? Because you're like alone in your school. So that was very cool. And that's kind of the way that LibraryLink works most of the time, is that you sort of just are able to take advantage. So you don't have to necessarily like join a committee. You can, but you don't have to necessarily join something. You can kind of set up your account and then just see like, oh, I want to go to this program or this event, or I'd like to apply for this grant or whatever. And that's kind of the way it works. And so that's how it worked for me. And then once somebody gives you some money, you're right, you're pretty happy about that. So then I was always kind of checking their website to see what else was going on. So that's sort of how I got involved. And then they hired me. So now here I am.
Thank you. Nancy, did you want to add anything, or we can build on that too if we want to go to how your involvement in the organization has affected your career? And you talked a little bit already about Nancy with PD opportunities.
Yes.
But if you want to build on that, and then we'll circle back around.
Yes, thank you. If I recall, when I was a student at Rutgers for my master's in library science 20 years ago, I probably learned about NJASL at the time, although at the time it was a different organization. It was called EMA, And I recall going to one or two of their conferences way back then. And then over the years, I became a member and stayed a member. And then about 3 years ago, I decided I really wanted to become more involved in NJASL. So I worked with somebody at NJASL, and I became co-chair of the membership committee. And this person that I worked with is no longer co-chair member right now. So I took on the role myself 100% about a year and a half ago.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Can I add something real quick about that? I remember early in my career, I kept waiting for people to ask me to do things, to like invite me sort of to the table. And I remember there was this opinion piece that someone wrote in Library Journal. So clearly I wasn't alone with this, but it was someone who had been in the field a long time. And they were like, listen, just don't wait for people to ask you. Just like come to the table, crash the party. We will share with you, but we're not gonna go out of our way to invite you to the table. And they went on to say that it was the same way when they sort of, came into the field. And so that really sort of helped me to feel, more comfortable just sort of like, coming to things, showing up and being part of it and not waiting for someone to sort of, pull me in.
Yeah, and I'll echo that, and I'll say also, Alan, that I think like once you do it, at this point, I've been president of NJLA Children's Services. I've been on the executive board. I've been on the NJASL executive board. I've presented at all the conferences. Like once you show up and say, oh, hey, this is, this is something that I'm willing to do, then people know who you are. And then they say, oh, well, we need someone to do this. I wonder if Darby would want to do it. I mean, Alan, how many committees have we been on together? I can't even count over the years, So if you're able to just build up that little bit of courage to put yourself out there once or twice, then you'll be like, please stop asking me. Please, it's too many things. But it does take a little bit of courage. And Alan's right. You have to kind of take your seat at the table sometimes, but it's well worth it. Well worth it.
Yeah, let me just add to that too. I'm new to all of this also. I'm currently a student, and I got involved because one of my professors heard from NJASL they were looking for a student affiliate, so she thought of me. We happened to be chatting that day, and she said, "Oh, hey, would you like to do this?" So I did get a personal invitation. I said, which is somewhat rare, but since I showed up, I have been so impressed with the passion for the profession, the interest, the dedication, and just I am so inspired by the people that I'm working with in NJASL, and I really feel like it's going to help me like keep momentum once I get going and have those frustrating times, to know this network of people who are really dedicated and who really care about the profession and who are all in. And so I would definitely say, like, yeah, pull up that little bit of courage, go for it. But this actually goes nicely into the next question I have, which is, once we get courage up, what are opportunities that your organization might have for current students? And I think we covered a little bit the why should we get involved part, but
I can start unless somebody else wants to start. Well, I would say, so LibraryLinkNJ, one of the nice things about it is because sort of anyone can kind of just participate as long as you're sort of in the field, which you all are. Welcome to the field. There are a lot of opportunities for free professional development and continuing education that, you may not be in a library yet, but if you take a look at our calendar, you'll see that we do like really a wide range of things. So just in the past month, we've done something on writing land acknowledgements. We've done something on starting a seed library. Today, we had a craft swap program for adult crafting librarians at the Woodbridge Public Library. Tomorrow, we're doing something about discrimination in the workplace, which is a joint webinar with the New Jersey Division of Civil Rights. So like it's all over the map. Later this month, we're going to be doing mental health first aid training. And all of this stuff is free to attend. So, if you're looking to interview, if you're looking to put things on your resume, if you're looking to know what our like what are the things that current librarians are like worried about or working on or trying to do, you can come to this stuff, or you could just sign up for our newsletter and see like, oh, this is what people are talking about. And you, at least you have those buzzwords, you know, even if you can't come to the things, right? And you're able to participate in these webinars and these activities, usually pretty much free of charge. And then you're able to talk about it when you do go into your interviews, or when you are entering the field and trying to make those connections and say, oh, I went to this training on mental health first aid, or, you know, I went to this webinar on, you know, land acknowledgements, right? And so I think that that's really helpful. You know, if you're new in the field and you're not sure yet that you want to pay dues, and that is not, I mean, you should join NJLA and NJASL. I want to put that out there right now. You absolutely should. But if you're like, I don't know that I'm ready to put my money into this yet, let me just see what's going on, you can come to some of our stuff and at least get a taste of what's happening without any kind of like financial commitment. The other piece that we do have, I mentioned, was the mentoring piece, which is the MentorNJ program. And while I don't know necessarily, well, some of you might, but I don't know if you'd feel comfortable putting yourself into the directory as a mentor. What's nice is that you can peruse our directory. And if you have specific questions about things, you can see the folks who've entered themselves as mentors. So for example, you know, if Nancy had put herself in there as a mentor, and she had, you know, indicated specific skill sets that she has, you could go look at the mentorship directory and you're looking for help with a specific topic. And now you're able to make that connection and say, hey, I found you on the MentorNJ directory. And you don't have to feel so awkward about kind of just like reaching out to a stranger, right? So I think that's really nice for people who have not joined the profession yet, but maybe want to start building those connections.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Darby. I think that, so I did put the LibraryLinkNJ, the web address in the URL in the chat there. And you see a bunch of different MentorNJ online meetups listed on your calendar right there on the homepage. And I think that that directory is super helpful because, you know, we talk a lot about in school about making connections, building our professional networks and all of these things. So I think sometimes that's still intimidating. But knowing that there are people out there who've said like, hey, I'm open if someone wants to ask me questions about it, that really helps, you know, making that cold call. Yeah.
Yeah, so for NJLA, NJLA has an internship program. And I just found out before we started tonight that they've actually extended the deadline for it. So they are still taking applications. I think I have the link queued up in the chat. So you can still apply for this. So the internship program is fantastic. It gives you an opportunity to serve on a committee, but also as an intern, you know, you get a little more attention from the people in charge. You know, they're going to work with you to give you tasks to do on that committee. But it's just a fantastic way to contribute to an NJLA committee. Some of these committees they're not super easy to get on. I mean, there's a little bit of a application and selection process once you're a member. So especially if there's a committee that aligns with your interests, whether it's intellectual freedom or public policy or a conference committee, there's a lot of different committees that you can be involved in. So I would definitely recommend the internship program. The other thing I want to mention quickly too is that NJLA has, so I think one of the best deals in town is the student joint membership, NJLA and ALA. It's $44. You get membership to both of those organizations. I hate to tell you that once you become a librarian, it is a lot more expensive than $44. But these are the sacrifices that we make. So that's just a fantastic opportunity. I think that's the link for ALA, but you can you know, join through there. You select your state, and then it connects you with NJLA, and you get both memberships.
Great, thank you for that. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting program where you can really get your feet wet and start to get an idea, you know, how the committee work happens, and you know how the sausage is made, without feeling like you're, you know, or, you know, without that imposter syndrome kicking in, right? Because you're there to learn, right? You're there to learn, you're interning. And I think that's a great way to get your foot in the door. Nancy, did you have anything you want to share?
Yes, thank you. On the NJASL website, if you were to look under the membership tab, there's a whole list of benefits that you would receive as a member of NJASL. And one of the benefits is free mentoring. So that is something that we do offer. Also, our conferences, our fall and spring conferences, our conferences every year, you do not have to be a member to attend the fall conference. I do know the rates would be higher though, but those are great opportunities for networking, for meeting with people, for kind of seeing, what this world is all about. And I think if I recall, the rate for students to join is about $35 to $40. So it really is not very expensive.
And I will just say, since we're talking about dues anyway, there also is, I don't think there's a student rate for this, but once you're employed, there is a joint NJASL NJLA rate also. So you can join both organizations for like a discounted rate, which is cool. Yeah.
Okay.
And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, Nancy, I was going to say for NJASL also, the county affiliates, I think, are really helpful if you are a student who's looking to potentially find a school librarian position, because we know they don't pop up that often. So there are county groups in NJASL that meet like kind of locally to their county, and students are welcome to go to those as well. And then you know people in the area who can kind of say, oh, hey, we heard this position, because everybody knows in schools, everybody knows who's leaving and who's moving and who's going. Oh, this position's going to be open, or this position's coming, or whatever. And that's a really great way to meet the other folks that are in your local area as a student, so when you're getting ready to apply. Sorry, Nancy, I didn't mean to step on your...
Thanks for bringing that up about the county groups. We have a whole bunch of them, and they meet, I would say, about 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you.
I will add one extra special position that's be opening up soon in NJASL is the student affiliate position. So I'm actually going to be graduating in January, so very soon. So if you have any interest in being the student affiliate for NJASL, so if you're interested in school librarianship and you would like to get involved in with a group of very dedicated and talented people, please reach out. I'd be happy to talk more about that opportunity. So my next question for our panel is, we're students now, but of course, and some people actually are already working in positions, but how do you as organizations assist members or with students with job search and placement?
NJASL posts on their website a list of job openings.
Yeah, NJASL has job postings also. I think some associations you actually have to be a member, you have to log in. You actually don't have to be a member for NJASL as of now. So, coordinating all the job postings is really helpful, both for NJASL and NJASL, depending on what kind of job you're looking for. For NJASL, I just want to say almost any public library job in New Jersey, they're posting on NJASL. So it's a good place to look. They update it Tuesday. I don't know if that's something that everybody knows. So Tuesday is where you're going to see the new jobs. The other thing they have listservs and email lists. So a lot of libraries will actually post opportunities to specific lists. So if you're in like the children's section, you get on that listserv and you get all the emails within that. And then the last thing I want to mention is for public libraries, NJASL has a salary guide. So, obviously cost of living is vastly different in each part of the state. But I do think it's a good thing that NJASL does this. It's an opportunity for you to see what compensation should be for different positions. And it's also a really good way to to really move the needle on compensation and to they set a minimum. And being even on the director perspective, it's easier to to convince whoever the stakeholders are that I have to convince about compensation by having this this sort of state minimum.
Yeah, that minimum is super helpful. And if you're applying for positions, I do encourage you to go look. It's obviously not a requirement. Like NJLA can't require any particular library to pay you any particular amount of money, but it's nice that it's there. And, as someone who I live in South Jersey, the minimums here never really quite meet the state minimums that NJLA kind of recommends, because as Alan said, the cost of living, between different counties is varies wildly, but it's good to know sort of, oh, I see this job posted and this salary is not acceptable. You can at least kind of get an idea of where things should be. In terms of job placement for LibraryLink, we have online forums. If you have an account, you can post to the forums, and we have a jobs forum that is really active. So lots and lots of jobs are getting posted there. I would say they're mostly public library jobs and some academic. I think if you're looking at K-12 schools, superintendents and principals and folks like that are not necessarily thinking of library specific job boards. So when they do come to us, or when they go to, like, say, NJASL, typically that's another librarian who works in the district or in the area, making sure that job posting kind of gets out to the rest of us. Because in K-12 schools, you'll often find that it goes to, like, the, what are they called? Like the school lists. I can't think of the name of the service right now that they post them to, but so if you look at the LibraryLink job postings, you'll mostly find public library stuff.
Great, thank you. And then in terms of sort of other, I said, if not already mentioned, are there any benefits or special programs that your organizations offer for students or new librarians? So any other things that we missed in our discussion earlier? For example, I know that NJASL has a mentorship program. Yes. That could you, I was thinking that Michelle was going to come to talk about that. So maybe if she pops in, she can elaborate, but if you could speak to that a little bit, Nancy, that would be helpful, I think.
I'm not too familiar with it. I do know Michelle McGreevy is in charge of that. And I do know that the mentoring is free, as mentioned before, once you are a member of NJASL. But the particulars of it, I'm not familiar with it.
That's okay. I think she's planning to come, but I know
Good.
she was going to be here late because she had something else to do. So hopefully she'll pop in soon.
Okay.
But for NJLA or oh, great. Darby put in the address in the chat. So if you reach out to mentoring@njasl.org for specific questions about
Yes.
the mentoring. My understanding is that, when you start a job, you're often required to have a mentor in your first year in the schools to get you settled and get you started. But frequently, within your school, they'll hook you up with a mentor who's not a librarian, right? Because you're probably the only one in your school. Maybe you're the only one in 2 schools. So it's kind of the librarians who are mentors for school librarians are kind of hard to come by. So my understanding is this program will hook you up with a mentor who's an actual librarian nearby.
Yes, that's right. It
So
will.
you can learn from someone who's already established in the profession and have that contact person to support you beyond what your school district could potentially offer you. Maybe you'll get a principal, or maybe you'll get, a teacher or something. So it gives you a little bit more of that specified knowledge to learn from and to build from. But are there any other things? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say something about mentoring in general, because mentoring always sounds kind of intimidating to me. I feel like, really it's as simple as just asking somebody a question who is in a position to know that answer. So don't hesitate to just, find someone who is doing the work that you want to do. Just, email them, ask a question, or maybe, schedule a time to see if, you can come in and just talk to them and sort of learn about their job. But I did those kind of things even before library school, and they were just, really, really helpful and really sort of instructive for me. As far as NJLA, probably the best thing for new librarians is their Emerging Leaders program. So Emerging Leaders is also, ALA also has Emerging Leaders. NJLA actually had it first. So ALA sort of modeled their program on NJLA's. And they're actually they're very different, just so you know, but NJLA Emerging Leaders was probably one of the best experiences I've had in NJLA. It's a program that you apply for. I don't think they really turn anybody down, but you do have to sort of go through that process. And then typically the way it works is you meet once a month for maybe 6-7 months during the year. You meet post-COVID and pre-COVID. It was physically in person, so you are meeting in libraries in different parts of the state. So it's a great way to get to know different libraries you've never been to before. They bring in great speakers. They do a lot of it is just sort of networking. They do some group projects, and I can't tell you how many people. I mean, I would say, so I did Emerging Leaders. I mean, I don't even know, maybe 15 years ago, 12 years ago. The people who are in my class, like I'd say half of them I still talk to on a fairly regular basis. So, these can be people that are sort of a big part, like we all need that sort of, that sort of like social foundation, because, I feel like our work is, so difficult. So that's just a great opportunity within NJASL.
And I would say, for LibraryLink, I think one of the big benefits that we're able to offer to students or to new library staff is that we are staffed differently, than the other organizations. And so if there are things that you feel you're missing, we're able typically, if a member comes to us and says, well, I would really like to see a webinar about this or an event like this or this kind of program, typically because we have the staffing to be able to kind of put things together, we're usually able to be really responsive to those kinds of things. That's not to say the other organizations are not. They're incredibly member focused, but just because we have programming people on staff whose job it is to do those things, one of the benefits is to be able to come and say, I just started my new job and we didn't learn this in library school. You'll hear that all the time once you get into the profession, like all the things you didn't learn in library school. And so we're kind of able to say, okay, well, let's address that. Let's figure out a way to get some professional development or some continuing education going. So, that's one way that I think we're able to be really helpful to new library staff, whether you end up continuing on to be a librarian, or if folks who are staff at other levels or in other positions in your libraries as well.
Darby, as you were saying that, I was thinking, could you just clarify, and maybe you mentioned this, but for LibraryLinkNJ, I believe you said that the library is the member, right? And then so if you're working at a library.
So yeah, so it's just, we just like to be really confusing. So essentially the way it works is, because we are the state library cooperative, our members are institutions. And so each library is a member of LibraryLinkNJ, and then everyone who works in that library is eligible to participate and set up their own online account. And so, yes.
Does that extend to school libraries?
Yes.
Yes.
So it covers
all kinds of libraries in the state?
every type
So
of
that's
library.
academic libraries, school libraries,
school, law libraries,
libraries.
medical libraries, archives, you name it, you're in. And that's because we are a nonprofit that's funded by the state library to do this work. And so anyone who works in those libraries, or anyone who's in an accredited MLIS program and you have to live in the state of New Jersey, is able to set up an account with us for free. And then you as an individual can take advantage of all the stuff that we offer. But technically your institution is the member, but you would never need to know that ever again. It's not necessarily relevant to you. So I hope that's not too confusing.
No, thank you for clarifying, because I was wondering, right. So every librarian who's working at a library or archive or something like that can take advantage of these services. Okay.
Yes.
So we're getting near the end of my official questions here, but and then so audience, please get ready to ask questions. We're going to come up to our Q&A point first very soon, so get them ready. And in the meantime, I'll throw kind of a softball to these guys. So maybe not. Maybe this is difficult. My question is, give some of your best advice for folks that are starting out in the profession. I see that there are a number of people who are already working, as library assistants or library technicians, but they're, in school or, different things like that. So there are some people with different levels of experience in libraries, but we're all working to deepen our understanding, to deepen our involvement in libraries. So if you can pull out some of your best advice for the newbies.
Can I circle back to one of the previous questions before, and I'm happy to answer this one too.
Absolutely, please do. Yeah, if this is we like I said, we do actually have a little time. So if you want to save those things for the very end, we could do that. If you want to fill in anything that we missed that you think is important, this is a good time to do that.
I just want to talk for a minute about the impact that NJASL has had on my career. There's no way that, I'm in my dream job right now. I knew very early on that I wanted to be a library director in a community that I'm very happy with. It's like the perfect size. I'm 5 minutes from my house. I had probably an hour plus commute for probably like 12, 13 years. So, I would not be here, if it wasn't for NJASL. And a quick story is that in a previous position, I'd applied for a position that was in a different part of the state. And so I got, pretty far in the interviews, and the library board reached out to other library directors in the area to, basically say, hey, do you know this guy? And this is a much different part of the state. But several people did, and unfortunately said nice things about me. But it's only because of NJASL. I had worked, I had done work in NJASL, I'd worked on the conference, and that's really the only reason that these people, knew me. And so, it has, a tremendous impact. The other thing is that I've been really fortunate, I think it was Darby was sort of joking earlier about, you keep getting asked to do things. And I'm constantly having to explain this to my wife. But these are opportunities, that, have impacted my career. And a lot of the work, it's like given me the opportunity to do work that I can now bring to my libraries, but I wouldn't have had those opportunities for various reasons to just, implement those. So, managing, being one of the conference chairs was incredible in sort of helping me to get, to a director position, which was something I was focused on. But like, you almost get to this point with experience where you can't quite get there. There's certain things that until you're like the person, it's kind of difficult to get that experience. So, things like budgeting, things, sort of being in charge of sort of big projects. And so NJASL has really, given me that. Yeah, so I just wanted to share that. Sort of, I guess actually, I'm going to hold off on my advice because I'm not sure.
No problem. Thank you for sharing that. Sounds like being in NJASL, right, has sort of really enriched your experience. You sort of mentioned two things, that you've built on this experience, these opportunities you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, and then also helped you build that the connections, right? So we've heard about in my classes, we keep coming back to those, like, develop your professional learning networks, and there's a lot of things that we do online, but I think that when you're working with people, directly on a project, right, you get a different sort of sense of who they are. Like, I could be friends with Darby I could follow Darby on Twitter, but if I'm working with Darby on a program or like this, and she gets more of a sense of who I am, I get a sense of who she is and what we're interested in, what we can do. And I think those experiences are really valuable. And I just want to, amplify what you're saying. I think that's a really good point.
And I think, I think that probably would be my advice, like, to get involved, because Alan is so right that, my involvement before I ever worked at LibraryLink, my involvement in NJASL and then my involvement in NJASL did so much to help me grow my career. And especially, I started my career in public libraries, and then I switched over to school libraries. Making that transition wasn't easy, but it was made a lot easier by the fact that I, felt like I had a support system, and I knew people in NJASL who could say, oh, well, this person made that switch, or this person went the other way, and you should talk to them. And like, suddenly you have all these people that you can rely on and talk to and get their experience. But I also think, to Alan's point, when you're trying to grow your career later on, you know, this position I have at LibraryLink right now, it's not super glamorous, but it is sort of, it's like a weird position to be in, because it's this like big statewide kind of coordinating. I mean, like in all these meetings with people all the time. And when I went to interview for it, I was like, they're never going to hire me. And when I did the interview, I kid you not, every person on the interview panel was someone I had been on a committee or on the board of NJLA with, or like I knew every single one of them already. Like we're a small profession, you know, so when you get involved, suddenly you're making connections that are really only going to help you grow. And I think, you know, like Alan and I, like I said, have worked together on a number of things. I know that if something were to come up where I could use his endorsement or his help, he would be right there. We've never worked together, like officially, we've never been paid to work together, right? But we've worked together on all these other things where, you know, it can only benefit your career to kind of do these things. And I think that involvement would be, you know, Jessica, you asked, like, what would your advice be for people who are just entering the profession? Finding a way to get involved beyond the walls of your library or the walls of your school is, I think, the number one thing that I would say you want to do. And, you know, any organization that you choose to get involved with, I think, is phenomenal, but doing it at the local level, like you said, Jessica, you know, we are encouraged in library school to do these PLNs and get on Twitter and get an ALA, and like ALA is great. But at the end of the day, if I had to choose between, you know, if I had to choose where I'm going to put my dollars or where I'm going to put my time, I'm going to choose NJASL or NJLA, or, you know, every time my local organizations over ALA, because I have found personally that I get so much more out of building those local connections and doing things that are, you know, specific to my geographic region and to the way that things work for me. So I like just can't say enough that, you know, I think getting involved is really important. And like, obviously with LibraryLinkNJ, literally all you have to do is just sign up for an account. You know, and then this stuff will come to you. So I can't say enough, like, just go on the website and sign up for your account. And if you never do anything with it and you just get our newsletter in your email, that will still make me happy, because you're still going to be connected and you're still going to know where to find us if you do need us. So, yeah.
Thank you.
There's so many conversations that you can be part of, you know, whether it's, you know, social media, you know, whether it's, you know, emails, whether it's, you know, coming in person to conferences. You know, I would just encourage everyone to you know, join the conversations, you know, related to the work that you're interested in. As a library director, like, there's so much I value about sort of like new perspective, or, you know, fresh eyes, like new ideas. And so, you know, feel really empowered that, you know, there's a tremendous amount of value, you know, that you bring, you know, even to just having, you know, a conversation with, you know, someone at conference, you know, maybe who is, you know, doing different work than you, or who, you know, you feel like is like way above you, and you shouldn't even be having a conversation with this person. And I can't tell you how many times that I've sort of stumbled into those opportunities where I'm having this sort of like almost like a silly conversation with someone, and then like they get up and, you know, are speaking, and it turns out like there's someone relatively important. You know, so just, you know, yeah, just join those conversations wherever you see them happening.
Thank you for that. Nancy, do you have a little bit of advice? Then we'll get to our questions for everyone, or do you want to save it and close the whole thing out in 10 minutes?
Same as what everybody's saying. Join the organization, especially for the connections with other people.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
Connections are so important. Okay, so now, my friends, we have time for questions. We have about 9 minutes, and I can wait quietly, so please step in and ask some questions. You have a lot of experience and wisdom in this virtual room, so ask away.
I need to step away for 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Christine, you're raising your hand. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this. I'm really enjoying it. My question, I guess, to the group, and since we're just having questions and being mentored a little bit, I work at a very small public library, and I was pretty much the youngest person hired, and then quickly fell into the children's services area as my section to manage and stuff, mostly because I have small children myself. And I think I am good at it, at story time and managing the children's collection, but it's not necessarily where I want to go with my MIS. But I feel nervous because now I have 5-6 years of experience in this one area where, I've always been drawn to archives, and I just was on another Zoom with the archivist people. But how do you translate your skills, I guess? You know what I mean? Like I'm in public library, I'm in children's area, doing children programming, children stuff. What is everybody's experience with that? And do you have advice for transitioning out of that? So thanks.
Well, I will say this, as someone who went from working in public use services to then working in schools, and now I do this job at LibraryLink, which is nothing like any of those things really. I think being able to kind of frame your skill set is really important, especially when you're writing your resume or going on interviews. So I remember when I interviewed for the position I have now, they were like, well, you've always worked with kids, and now you're like, you're going to work with all these adults, and like, what, and so I was like, listen, parents, caregivers, teachers, administrators, like these are adults. These are the people that I'm working with every single day, and everybody kind of went like, oh, good point, but nobody thinks of it kind of that way. So I think one thing is kind of like creatively framing the work that you're doing. But I think the other thing is definitely, this won't come as a surprise to you, getting involved in some of the organizations and building those connections and letting those folks know, like, these are opportunities that I'm interested in. And just because you sort of fell into youth services for whatever reason, certainly that does not mean that you need to stay there. Let the archivists out there, join, is it ACRL still? Alan, I don't know. I feel like it keeps changing, but NJLA has like an academic and a research component that you can participate in. I would say get involved in those things and let the people that are involved in them know that these are opportunities that you're looking for. And once they get to know that you're competent and that you're interested, and good work is good work wherever you do it, then you'll have those connections and they'll be able to kind of point you in the right direction. I don't know if that's helpful. I hope it is.
I was going to say something similar. I mean, I was going to say that, in a way, like, it all translates, but also, like, it doesn't matter. There's lots of ways that, you can sort of, pivot. And I sort of say this because as someone who has seen people pivot, not because I've necessarily pivoted that much myself. I would look for, say you're doing, children's and you want to do adult reference, or like you said, archives, find opportunities to do that archive work, or to sort of demonstrate skills that sort of contribute to that archive work. What I've always said, and this is like sort of a question of privilege, being able to say this, but what I've always said is, like, find someone to let you do the work, and then find someone to pay you to do the work. And so, being able to sort of, do volunteer work or contribute to things is not always easy. Before I went to library school, I worked full-time in retail, and then I volunteered at the library on my days off. And I didn't do it because I thought it was going to be a career. I just did it because I thought it was going to be, like everyone says, like, oh, it'll be relaxing, it'll be fun. And I just fell into it. So, if you can just find, opportunities to sort of do that work and demonstrate it, that will sort of take you into that new path. And there's nothing wrong with sort of, keeping your foot into different doors, into different, sort of spaces, because, you never know where you're going to end up. I always tell people that I took every single academic librarianship class in library school because I thought that's what I wanted to do. I did my internship in a public library, and I said, no, that's definitely where I want to be.
Thank you for those thoughtful responses. Nancy, did you want to add anything, or should we see if any there? Nope. Okay. Are there any more questions? You know, I have the Jeopardy theme song playing in my head. I'm going to go through the whole thing.
Do you want to know where we got our glasses? Oh, okay.
It looks like Rachel has a question. Go ahead.
Sure, I'll ask a question. So I'm doing the Rutgers program because my family's in New Jersey, so that's where I'm living. But after I graduate, I would like to live in a different state than New Jersey, preferably in New England. I was wondering, because obviously everybody I talk to says, oh, I'm part of NJLA, join NJLA. How many, and I would be open to working in New Jersey, but I'm wondering how many opportunities there are for crossing the border elsewhere.
I think there are a lot of opportunities. I can think of a handful of people that I know who even recently have left the state for whatever reason. They have family elsewhere in the country, or a really great opportunity came up somewhere else and they applied for it. I think if you're willing to make the move, it's certainly not, it happens. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It's obviously harder to make the kinds of connections that we're sort of discussing in terms of like building your career and that kind of thing. If you're not sure where you're going to go, and you can't join every state library association and be part of them all. But I've seen people move in and out of Jersey and into other states and take positions many times. And so I think it certainly is like an achievable dream, I would say.
And I think there's a lot more opportunities right now. So when I was in TNEC, I had someone from San Jose State contact me about doing their internship in TNEC. They lived in TNEC. That made perfect sense to me. Then during the pandemic, another San Jose State student reached out about doing an internship who lived in California. I never would have known what to do with that, before COVID, but in the middle of the pandemic, I was like, sure. So, she planned a bunch of programs. She, did promotion. She helped us with, we did virtual, some virtual team groups during the pandemic, and she did all of that. And she did it all from California, and now has this experience in Westfield, New Jersey on her resume. And I even got called for one of her references, which must have seemed weird to the person making that call. So I think there's a lot of opportunities, Rachel, if you have an area that you want to be in, just start to, see if, you can, intern or, just start to reach out. And I think you can build relationships. And I'll also say that one of my best friends in library school ended up in Maine and has been there, ever since. And so, even just sort of, sending out resumes, I do think, works also.
Thank you so much for your responses. And it is 8 o'clock, so I'd like to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you very much for everyone who came today to participate, panelists and everyone who's asking great questions. And we do have a survey in the chat. I popped it in there. It's just a few questions to get an idea. This is the first event like this we've done at this group of people. So we're wondering a little bit about what you thought, and maybe, ideas for future things for students and things like that. So it's just a few questions, fill it out. We'd really appreciate your feedback and your thoughts. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hope you have a great night.
And feel free to reach out to me at NJASL if you have any questions.